Welcome to another episode of Diamond Podcast. I'm your host, local realtor, entrepreneur, community advocate, Alfredo Diamond. Today's a special episode. As you can see, we are in the holiday spirit here. And I got a special guest here, Dr. Hicks, Dr. Matthew Hicks, Northeastern Wayne Community Schools. Welcome, Dr. Hicks. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Al, for the chance to come in and be a part of this. And I wish everyone in the community happy holidays and Merry Christmas. May you all wear your moose sweaters and enjoy the holidays.
Yeah. So when you told me let's dress with ugly Christmas sweaters, and I gotta say, I don't know if you special ordered that one or you got out the back of the closet, but that is definitely a special sweater, I'll say.
It was a gift from my children, and I wear it every Christmas, and I try to break it out. This is the Friday the 20th. It's the last day the kids are in school, so I like to wear an ugly sweater to work today too, which is the advantage of working in a school.
Hey, that's awesome. I love that you shared that. So, Dr. Hicks, we cross paths, quite a bit on a monthly basis, and occasionally we get the chance to talk, but we've never got a chance to go in depth. I just want to get to know you a little bit better. Where are you from? So can you start with that and kind of talk to me about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in a small town outside of Lafayette, Indiana, called Dayton, Indiana. People don't know there's a Dayton, Indiana.
No.
As you drive north on 65, if you see the Subaru plant, look right very quickly. You'll see the little town that I grew up in. So I grew up there. I grew up on one side of the town for the first half of my life, and then my parents got divorced, and we moved to the other side of town. So I went to the same schools for my whole career, and I actually went to Purdue University, which is in the same county as the little town I grew up in. So I didn't leave Tippecanoe County until I took my first teaching job.
So at what age were you when your parents divorced?
Great question. I was 11.
Okay.
It was the tail end of fifth grade, and I was getting ready to go into middle school. And, I don't remember a ton of tension, but there was a kind of a catalytic event. I came home one day, and my parents were in a pretty ruckus fight. And it was clear that things were not good, and my dad moved out pretty shortly thereafter. And it's one of those things that I forget about it sometimes. Both my parents have since passed.
Sorry.
And so that phase of my life is further away as the years go on now. But I will come across a kid who is just fresh going through it, and I really have been able to help some kids in those first phases after going through divorce, because it really feels like everything is broken, and as a kid, you feel like you could have done something to prevent that from happening, and it's just not true. You're 11 years old. You're not in charge of anything in the adult relationship. So I've had that talk a lot of times in my career, just to help kids understand, like, look, this is an adult problem. You're a great kid. It's not about you. You can still go on and be very successful, and don't let it keep your heart broken. It's really important to understand that just because your parents divorced doesn't mean that everything's going to go south and it's going to be awful from here on out. So
this is going to be a great episode because you already setting me up. You went right into my next question. But just to touch on that, so with your experience and your role now in your position, when you do cross paths with those particular students, what's one lesson you learned through that experience that you might be able to give a youth that you cross paths with?
Yeah, I really try to help kids understand. First of all, you have to deal with those feelings. If you just box them up and put them away, they're going to get out later. I tried to pretend for about a half a year that things were going to go back to normal.
Okay.
Like the old what's the story where the twins try to put the parents back together? Parent Trap.
Okay.
Yeah. I kind of had like Parent Trap vibes. I had to do it by myself. I don't have a twin, but I really, there's a period of time where you just think like maybe this thing is going to Humpty Dumpty's going to get put back together. You put a lot of hope in that. And I tell kids, like, look, the likelihood of that is very low. So the sooner that you recognize that it is a new reality and start to really build out the positives of this new reality, you know, you get 2 holidays, you get 2 birthday parties. Like, there are some
perks.
There are some perks to having 2 households. You know, you get 2 bedrooms, like that sort of thing. You know, it's not. I don't want to mitigate the pain of it. It is incredibly painful, but you have to deal with that pain and you have to move forward, and you can't let yourself get trapped in that pain. It's very important. You know, I've been through a lot of stuff since that, and that was really the first time in my life where I had to figure out how do I move forward from this. And I had a good guidance counselor at my elementary school, and the next year I made friends with the guys that I'm still friends with now. I mean, you know, I'm pushing 50 and we still get together and do things together. So there really was an ability to move forward from that. But that's what I tell kids, like, look, this is really hard and you have big feelings about it, and you should. You're watching your parents split up. But on the backside of this, there's a lot of good that will come, and I hope that you'll be able to find it soon.
You have to be passionate about what you do in education and really care. And was it this experience, or what inspired you to go down this path that landed you where you are today?
Well, the superintendency piece of it came a lot later, but I became a teacher for a couple of reasons. I always knew I wanted to help people. So when I left high school and went to Purdue, I thought I was going to be a psychologist.
Okay.
I wanted to work in that field. I had a really good psychology teacher in high school, and I spent a year in that program at Purdue, and it didn't fit. It didn't fit me. We tell kids that you should try on as many jackets as you can and keep doing it until you find the one that fits. Well, that jacket didn't fit me. I didn't want to be dispensing pharmaceuticals professionally. Like, I really thought I was going to be a cognitive behavioral therapist. And when you got into psychology, there's a lot of pharmacy required to be successful at it. Long and short of it wasn't a good fit. But I had a job as a summer camp counselor the summer before I went to college, and then the summer after.
Okay.
And that summer after, I was at camp, and I just really had a way of helping kids be successful at whatever we were trying to do. If we were learning how to orienteer, I was good at and patient and able to help kids figure out how the compass worked and be successful in that endeavor. If we were fishing, I was able to help kids learn all of the phases of this is how you bait the hook, this is what it means to, like, be patient and catch a fish, and then this is how we get the fish off the hook, you know.
Yeah.
And I really was grateful to have that experience, because I wouldn't have known that otherwise. You know, if I'd gone to work back in retail, because I used to work at Toys R Us. I promise I'm not the reason it's out of business, but I really considered going back to that store, and I found this other thing kind of through a fluke. But the long and the short of it was, as I was at camp thinking about what I wanted to do, I reflected on my teachers. I had a really, really great language arts teacher, Mr. Van Hefty. He's since passed. But I wound up in AP Language Arts as a senior because I had a junior teacher push for me. But this senior teacher, about 2-3 weeks in, I really didn't feel like I belonged in the class. They had kind of been together as a cohort for a long time, and I just didn't feel like I fit in, and I was kind of starting to do my homework, and I was just quietly quitting, as we would say now, but I was really checking out.
You're checking out.
And he pulled me in the hallway, and he said, look, I see what you're doing, and that's not okay. And you're as smart as all of these other kids. They just have been together longer.
Wow.
So they defer to each other in the conversations, and they're not going to ask you your opinion because you haven't been with them as long. But if you hang in there and you put the work in, you will be one of them by the time we get to the end of this year.
Wow.
And he was right. And I turned it around thanks to his encouragement, and it made all the difference in terms of my writing and my ability to be able to do the work it takes at college, because so much of what you do at college is based on your ability to write well.
Okay.
So it was a big difference maker. My favorite teacher in high school was my chemistry teacher, and so I was kind of between language arts and chemistry, and I decided that our success as professionals really does come down to our ability to tell stories and write well and communicate. And so I felt like that was what I wanted to help kids get better at as they grew up. So I chose language arts, and I taught for 11 years, and I loved every minute of the classroom. It really is it's the best job.
So you from high school to Purdue, and then you kind of discover in college, what didn't work for you, what you didn't like, what you did like through those experiences. So tell me how you landed, where you are now at Northeastern.
So I became a teacher. I taught at a lot of places around Indianapolis and the suburbs. I went home for 6 years. I taught at Harrison High School and then back to the Indianapolis suburbs. And I became an administrator because I had some really great mentors at my kind of last teaching post, Hamilton Southeastern. I took a dean's job in Florida, which is just a discipline job. And I learned a lot. It was a very interesting school. I loved that place, but when you're 2,000 miles away from everybody, everybody, Al, my parents, our friends, everybody, and we had 2 small children. My daughter was born in Florida, and after a year of that, we were like, okay, we may have come a little too far. Like, this may be a little further from home than we should have ventured. So we made our way back to Indiana, and I moved up from assistant principal. I took my first principal job at Northeastern in 2018.
How long did you stay in Florida?
We were there for 10 months. Yeah. It really was tough.
I've been here my entire life. I admire that you did that, and that's, it's one of the things I'm like, man, that's pretty cool. But then I've just been so comfortable here, and I could take pride in that too, But
yeah. Well, I had wanderlust. I needed to answer the question, and I can tell you, going to the beach every weekend is lovely. It really is fantastic. However, when things get difficult, when poop hits the fan, and you don't have anybody to call to help you with it, you're like, okay, well, that beach thing really doesn't offset having help, So, it was time to come home. So, moved to Wayne County in 2018 to be the principal at Northeastern, and then my predecessor and good friend and mentor, Dr. Blessing, took a job in Ohio, and I was hired as superintendent in 2020 to start my time, and the time has flown. It'll be 5 years in May that I've been the superintendent. So
wow, that's amazing. That's amazing, and you have an amazing journey, and when you think about your journey, what can you think of a time that was really like maybe a setback or where you had to overcome some adversity?
Well, I will tell you.
And how'd you do it?
When we lived in, we made our home in Noblesville for 10 years, and we really had set up shop. We had friends. Our kids were growing, and I had reached a point in my career where it was time for me to become a principal, and it was a really tough decision. And it is difficult to become a principal in Hamilton County without principal experience.
Yeah.
Hamilton County is sort of a destination county, and when they have openings for principal, there are folks like me that have been, assistant principals in Hamilton County. But then there are folks that have been principal for 10 years somewhere and have cut their teeth, and they know what they're doing. And it's a pretty, I can say now as a superintendent, when you're looking at those 2 candidates, of course you have a proven principal to hire. It was tough. It was a tough pill to swallow, though, when I was somebody who had kind of put time in the system and wanted to stay and have one of those jobs, but they don't turn over very often, and the applicant pool is magnificent. It's just tough. It's tough to break in there. And so we really had to come to consensus, at least my wife and I, about, are we ready to move so that my career can take the next step. And it was a tough decision for us as a family, because anytime you move your kids, it's tough. So, but a lot of conversations with my mentors. I've been really fortunate to have people care about me in my life and my career, and be good sounding boards when I go to make decisions like these. And obviously my wife, we wouldn't be here if she had said absolutely not. So, it was really a brave move on her part to be willing to step out of our comfort zone and make this transition. So,
what's your favorite thing about being superintendent?
well, listen, I had a piece of it here within the last week. I get to walk around the elementary, and when you're an adult male and you go in the elementary, there just aren't a lot of us. So the kids are always a little like, who are you? Who are you? What are you doing in here? Right?
Yeah.
And once their teachers always introduce me, even though I've come through, they're like, just a reminder, this guy's supposed to be here, which I really appreciate. But once we break that social barrier, it's like, we've been waiting for you to come, because we have all these questions about these boots and this dinosaur and this lunchbox, and really being around the youngest kids, it really is a reminder of the responsibility that we've been entrusted with, but also the joy that we get to have with these kids. It's just amazing. So
in your role as superintendent, like, what's it like day to day? Like, who reports to you? What facilities you have to oversee? The budgets, like, do you handle everything, or do you have a group? Like, is it like think of the chain of command, like, or the organization structure? Do principals report to you? Like, how does all that work?
So we are a small shop. We're a small school district. We have there are 10 of us on the administrative team, myself included. Our building principals, our assistant principals, our director of learning, and our athletic director. So that's 10 people. All of those folks report to me. I evaluate all of them. And then there's all the folks in my office, my registrar, my executive secretary for the board, HR specialist, and treasurer. They all also are evaluated by me. I also evaluate our SROs because I've always done it. So I'm the one who's done it before. So I do their evaluation.
SRO, I know what what's that?
An SRO is a student resource officer.
Okay.
Our student resource officers are badged Wayne County sheriffs.
Okay.
Who also work for the school district and provide security and help us work on our security plan. We have a safety committee that works. So when you ask about the budget, it is my job to put together the budget. I do work with a consultant because I'm a recovering language arts teacher. Like, you don't want me doing your taxes, Al. I'm going to be honest.
Recovering language arts teacher.
So numbers are still something that I have to work at. So I make sure that I have someone who does it for a living check my work. But I get the opportunity to work with the board. I work for the board. They're the ones who evaluate me. And I'm really lucky. I have a great board who really listens to our community and works to make sure that we keep things on track as far as being aligned with our community norms and those sorts of things. It's a great team, though, Al. I can't take credit for any of it. I just have been very fortunate to hire great people, and they do the lion's share of the work. It's just my job to give guidance and support as we move forward.
And you brought up the sheriffs and the safety officials and things like that. So would this come about with, like, maybe the school threats and things like that? How long has this been in place? Is this something new, or?
Well, Indiana has what's known as the Indiana School Safety Specialist Academy.
Okay.
It's been around for a while. You might want to check that in the fact check, but It's been around. I first went. It would have been 2010. I think it's the first year that I attended the academy. So it is an opportunity for administrators, SROs, teachers to be trained in the latest in school safety.
Okay.
So being trained in that academy, and then Noblesville was an Alice district, which is a lockdown active shooter protocol. And then in 2018, the spring, I was approved as high school principal at Northeastern in April of 2018, and then in May of 2018, I was the assistant principal at Noblesville West Middle School when there was a school shooting.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, I was already invested in the safety space, but after that experience, I really have a deep desire to make sure we're doing everything we can to help kids be physically safe at school, but also to make sure that we're doing the things that we can to try and help them be emotionally safe from a mental health standpoint. We work really hard at that at Northeastern. So
when you think about, the shootings and which, I hate to even talk about that. It's a shame we talk about that nowadays, but it's reality. You think about the hoaxes that were, that maybe they're still happening or going on, but, what type of maybe policies or procedures you have in place now that have been working to kind of minimize some of that?
Well, we work to make sure that we have a hardened entrance so that when you come in and out of our buildings, there's only one point of access, and you come through one of our staff members to get in the building. We keep our SROs busy checking doors and being a presence on our campus so that folks know that if you come, there's already a police officer waiting for you there. And we have a robust safety committee where we meet internally and we meet externally. Our relationship with the Wayne County Sheriffs, Richmond Police Department, Richmond Community Schools Police Department, the Richmond Fire Department, and the volunteer fire departments that would respond to us, they're just tremendous partners, Fountain City, Webster, Williamsburg. And then we are so grateful for our relationship with Reed. Their team makes sure that we have the first aid response equipment that we would need in the event of any accident, also an active shooting event. We're very blessed to have these relationships where we come together, we talk through these things, and we continue to try to tighten the net so that it's as tight as possible so our kids are safe.
You're very involved in safety. You have some other work. Can you talk about your work you've done with the Principal Recovery Network? Yes.
So Frank DeAngelis, the principal at Columbine High School, which is sort of the in 1999, it really is when everyone started to think about what should we do in the event of a critical violent incident like this. He had been responding to school shootings with a small group of people for a long time. And over the years, he recognized the fact, and that group recognized the fact, that every year more of us were joining the club that nobody wants to be a part of, and that work could be divested and improved upon by just adding more people to the group. So they founded the group in 2019. I joined in 2020, and we have two main goals. Our goal is to help a school that has just gone through a shooting have the tools they need to work through that recovery phase as seamlessly and smoothly as possible. So we have an outreach protocol that we follow to try and get a hold of those folks and share resources with them, and really just be someone to talk to who's been there and done that, for lack of a better term. And then our other stated goal is to work on the prevention side. We lobby lawmakers to make sure that there are mental health pieces in place for students and staff, to make sure there's money in the recovery fund so that if there is a school shooting, there's money there to help them do whatever repairs need to be done. Sometimes a building needs a new entrance. Sometimes you need to hire some SRO,
cameras or things like
cameras.
that.
There's a lot of things that may need to happen in the recovery that are very expensive in a very short period of time, and the federal government has some relief money set aside. We just make sure that budget stays intact and doesn't get defunded. So that's the work that we do. We come together in the summer and lobby, and we really get a chance to be together. And it is a strange truth that the way I found myself into this group was because of the worst day of my life. But these people are amazing. They live all across the country. They're out there every day trying to help kids have a better life. And we're all in recovery. We've all been through this trauma. And when we come together, it's a chance to kind of make sure we're taking care of ourselves. They're tremendous accountability partners in making sure that we take care of ourselves.
That's amazing, and that resources there. Just talking about this with you, I mean, a lot of stuff. We have the victims, whether it's a shooting or other violence or, anything involved with the child is just not, negative like that is just not good. But you think about it, the other external factors that are impacted. It's not just the victims' families, but anyone that witnessed that is a victim. Like,
Right.
you're probably gonna need to talk to someone about.
Yeah.
I mean, with your experience, what's it like, kids coming back to school or a child that's not feeling comfortable? How do you get through that?
Well, we encourage what we call a soft opening, where you have an open house style event for families to come back in. Kids get to come with their parents, and they get to come in and have their first experience in that space again, as supported as possible. And we were fortunate; we did not have any funerals. My teacher that I helped hire, and one of our students were wounded, and the student critically so. We're very grateful for the recovery that she's been able to make over the years. But you have to ease back into that, and you want a lot of mental health support in place. And for reasons that I can't fully articulate, we had 10 therapy dogs in the building that day, so that almost every corner you came around, there was a dog there to try and take the pressure off. And we already had a therapy dog at that place. Many of the schools I've served at, including Northeastern, we have therapy dogs or support dogs there. But having mental health counselors and therapy dogs and having a plan for long-term mental health is critical, so that kids have a chance to recover, staff members have a chance to recover, and it affects everyone differently, Al, because the thing that happens with that type of trauma is it takes all of your accumulated traumas or all your accumulated past work. So, my parents had divorced, I'd lost my parents, all of that stuff. All the work that I had done to kind of heal from those things, it all got stripped away.
Wow.
It's a really intense, unique thing, and it feels incredibly hopeless at first. You talk about setbacks. I had just defended my dissertation topic, and I wrote my dissertation chair and told her I was done. Like, I didn't care about being a doctor anymore.
Wow.
And luckily, she and my wife and Dr. Blessing, those three people specifically, and my kids, just encouraged me not to give up. Like, you don't have to do it right now, but don't give up on that. It probably took 9 months before I could even consider doing that again. And luckily, my chair didn't give up on me. She helped me finish. I got my doctorate 2 years later. I had to finish mine.
Do you mind share what the topic was?
Yeah, it was the relationship between organizational and supervisor support and the likelihood that a teacher will stay with an organization. Because I had been in a lot of organizations at that point, and sometimes I felt really supported by the principal and maybe not by my peers, and sometimes it was the opposite. I felt like my peers were my support, and my principal was sort of a stranger that I never saw. And what the research says is if you have both, then the likelihood that people will stay in that setting are very high.
Man, you just keep throwing me these John Stockton passes, Steve Nash, Jason Kidd passes. Thanks for the assist, going right into it. So when you think about, I'm excited about it because with all the boards that I'm on and the meetings I get to sit in on, there's some priorities or agendas items with attracting talent, retaining local talent, bridging the gap between our local education system, local employers, and the local universities right here in our own area. We got this new thing coming up, student workplace learning, which I'm excited about, and I'm excited for the students and employers in our entire community. What are your thoughts on that, and where is it at? Where are we at with things right now?
So I'm excited from this vantage point.
Mm-hmm.
Years later, in one of my courses for one of my degrees, I learned that one of the reasons I became a teacher was because it was the most successful career field I ever came in contact with as a kid. My dad worked
Consistent.
Yeah.
No layoffs. You're not getting laid off, right?
Yeah.
That's where you're going, right?
Well, that and it's the one I had the most contact with.
Yeah.
My dad
Okay.
was a quality control guy at a wire company. My mom had 3 jobs,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew I didn't want to do any of that.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like I had, my childhood best friend, his dad was in car sales,
Mm-hmm.
and that looked very difficult. I mean, just
Mm-hmm.
kind of watching that family struggle with the ebbs and flows of
yeah.
of that line of work at the
Mm-hmm.
time in the 90s. And so I really didn't have a lawyer or a doctor or a chemist or a physicist in my life,
Yeah.
that I could learn from and get a sense of what that career field would be like. No veterinarians, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody really in the medical field, nobody in hard science, just really didn't have those career fields as something to even consider,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I don't regret my career. I'm super grateful for it. However, I feel like I should have at least had a chance to think about those other things.
Be exposed to them.
Be exposed to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Or have a model to look at.
That's
Yeah.
right. So from that vantage point, I think it's super important the work that we're trying to do right
Yeah.
now by bringing these professionals to campus, by going out to see these professionals in their setting, and in some cases having kids join the profession a little early on an apprentice or work-based learning basis. We have a great relationship with Hills Pet, where our students start to learn about manufacturing on our campus, but they also get to go visit that setting. And then as the years go on, they spend more time at the plant. And then by their senior year, they can go work at the plant half day
Okay.
and be paid and also get high school credit. And that's the model we'd love to work toward, in a lot of areas. So I'm very excited about it. But the infrastructure of going from these sort of piecemeal approaches to everybody's got to do it
Yeah.
is a Herculean task. And I want to give credit to one of my peers in the county, Dr. McCoy at
Okay.
Centerville. He has really worked to bring us together as a superintendent group and with the chamber and the Economic Development Corp, the Wayne County Foundation and Forward Wayne County, along with East Central Indiana Service Center and Eastern Indiana Works. And we are trying to build out a cohesive plan so that we're not putting our employers in a position to try and choose some kids over other kids, and so that we meet the compliance from the state in a logical way, so that if you as a realtor wanted to take a kid from Northeastern and a kid from Centerville and a kid from Richmond, you don't want to be filling out 3 different types of feedback on those kids,
Right, not
so
enough
they
time.
get their credit.
Right.
Nobody has time for that.
Right.
So those are the sorts of things that we are trying to hammer out now as this diploma type rolls in. So my daughter is in the first class that will get this diploma type. She's in 8th grade. She'll be a freshman next year. And this diploma type is the only way kids can graduate in her
Wow.
senior year.
But, we have to be careful with that, though, because not everybody's going to be interested in the traditional employment opportunities. We got technology is amazing. I mean, there's more and more. Some just aren't going to go to college. Some just aren't going to go work in a traditional field. They're going to be on online, e-commerce or, some role online with technology, TikTok and all that. Like, we've got to adapt to
Yes.
the current trends in the world with employment, right, and opportunities, right?
Absolutely. We want to make sure we always want to marry kids' interest with what we know is out there, but also what can they make happen.
Yeah.
It's a time when we have kids who make small fortunes because they become
Right.
an influencer online. And unfortunately, none of my kids did that personally. I mean, if kids, if you're watching, there's still time. But we're in an age where if you find something you're passionate about it and you can figure out how to make it work in the world, it can happen.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Wow, man, there's so much that we can talk. So much I can talk to you about. It's been a pleasure having you here today. If you think about your journey and people that have helped you along the way, I can tell how passionate you are about the folks that have been there for you. If there's one person or a group that you would love to shout out while you're here and just promote them out there, who would it be? Who would you give a shout out to?
Well,
And
my administrative team, my building team, they really are an amazing group of leaders who care about kids. But in terms of me personally, one of the reasons I'm sitting here is my good friend and mentor, Dr. Matt Kegley, who is the deputy superintendent at Hamlin Southeastern. He's the one who really encouraged me to pursue administration. I did my principal internship with him, and he has been a constant, steady voice in my ear, reminding me that I can do this job, helping me make the right decisions in the right moments, and he continues to do that for me to this day. So he is definitely near the top of that list, Al. So thanks for the chance to thank him.
It's been great. We've been talking about this for a while. I can't thank you enough for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. And that wraps up another episode of our Diamond Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Happy holidays, everyone. And we'll see you on the next episode.